All right, everybody. Welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. Today we have Miss Dani D in the house.
What's up?
You know, this is my first time actually meeting her. I think I saw you at the Fit Show, and it was kind of like, hey, all right,
Yeah.
bye. But
I was a little busy.
yeah. She's very busy. I've seen her all over the place, social media, shows, and whatnot. She's pretty hard charger like myself, so I admire that. But yeah, and I've been wanting to get her on the podcast, and here she is. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love this podcast. I think you're doing a great job, so I'm just like here for it.
Couldn't do it without him.
I know, and I love Logan. I've been working with him for a short time. So, but yeah. So I'm Dani D, owner of Dani D Fitness. I'm Body Positive brand. Influencer, I guess you could say, body positive brand instructor, however you want to classify it. Basically, my mission is to break the stereotype of what healthy and fit look like, and help people to love themselves throughout their journey.
Yeah.
And so that is what I do literally 99% of the time. I'm actually from Murfreesboro. I went to high school at Blackman High School, and then I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville for college.
Cool. How old are you?
So I'm 29.
29? Nice. Ugh. Almost at the 30 mark.
Yeah, it's just weird saying it, just because I don't know. I still feel like I'm 24. Like when I first started my business, is actually when I started to I feel like kind of live my life, if that makes sense.
Of course.
And so I always revert back to that. I'm like 24. No, wait. That's 5 years ago, which I can't even believe. It's been 5 years. So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, time fucking flies.
Oh yeah, when you're having fun for sure.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's been a lot, but it's been fun.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I started this 3 years ago, and it's just like, it's crazy to think. Like, I was in the guest bedroom for a while, and then here we are in this building doing this. So it's pretty badass to see the transformations. We just got to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Work together.
100%.
Hell yeah. So, all right. So we're going to get into, what you are doing with your business and like the purpose behind it and all. I want to break down to that, but, okay, my bad. But you gave us a little bit, but tell us a little bit more about your backstory and your upbringing, why you are who you are.
And keep that mic close to you for me.
Okay. So, I started dancing at the age of 3, started competing at the age of 10. And basically, my mom traveled a lot, and my dad, he worked all day long. So I basically had a cousin who was like my nanny, or had someone else like chauffeur me everywhere. Okay. So I was very independent. I actually went to a private Christian school growing up that was like literally like a house, and you basically were like homeschooled, essentially. I was the only person in my grade.
I'm a big proponent of, I'm a big supporter of homeschooling these days.
Yeah, well, but like the thing is and then my brother, he homeschools his kids out on his farm in Shelbyville, and like I'm
That's
here
awesome.
for it. Yeah, and so so it did teach me a lot of like independence. It taught me a lot of like how to cut out the excess. You know what I mean? Like I fast forward through like the videos of things that I didn't want to know or didn't care to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of like, they were just like talking or whatever. And it was like, okay, let's like get to it, take the test, done. And there would be like a real teacher in the classroom, so it'd be like kindergarten and first grade. And then you'd have like 2nd through 5th grade, and there'd be like one teacher in that room. And then 6th through 12th grade and like another teacher in that room.
Yeah.
So I had dance for my like kind of like my social part of stuff, and then I had that schooling, and that was like 5 minutes down the road from my parents' house, so it was really convenient. But I actually had like, so it was around the age of I say 14, but really it started at the age of 12. I was had acid reflux, so people are like, oh yeah, like acid reflux. Well,
You still have acid reflux.
pretty much, yeah.
I have to take Zantac every freaking,
Right.
omeprazole. Yeah, I get it pretty bad.
And I don't want to take it. And the thing is, I'm pretty much nauseous all the time.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was being late for school, which again, they didn't really care at that point. But what happened was I transitioned to public school my 7th grade year. Okay. So I went from like being the only person in my grade to then a classroom full of people more than like my entire school was, right? So there was that transition. And then plus there was the transition of like, well, I was late all the time. And I'm obviously late everywhere I go. But this was because I was getting sick.
Right there with you.
And I would like throw up every morning.
Okay, I'm just late because
Right.
time management is something I'm still trying
I know. I try not to rush anywhere, because every time I've rushed somewhere, something bad happens. And then it was, I'd rather be like, hey, sorry, I was late. You know what I mean? Than like, oh, I was in a wreck. So for me, when I was young, like I said, I would get sick every morning. I'd throw up. It didn't matter if I ate, didn't eat, took medicine, didn't whatever. So finally, we went to the doctor. The doctor puts me on steroids for like way too long. I go on stairs and
Nice.
yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
And notice like I'm dancing as well. So like I'm dancing literally like hours every day. And then I remember the doctor specifically telling my mom, I was sitting there and I hate the doctor's office. And he said, don't worry, the weight will come off fast. At this point, I'm taller than everybody else, but I was like very thin. Like I was like, I mean, I was a solid piece of rock, you know, when I danced.
Yeah.
And, you know, but my parents didn't really have the best eating habits and stuff. So for me, like I ate ramen noodles every day and 2 liters of soda every day. Like that was my diet essentially. And so
I do love some ramen noodles.
I know, right? 2 packs, chicken flavor. Yes. And so basically when that all went down, I put on a significant amount of weight taking the steroids. Well, because I was eating everything in sight, dancing, whatever. Well, the way at that time, that pivotal time in a young girl's life at like 14, that was not the time to do this. Okay.
Yeah.
Plus now I'm a freshman in high school. I'm dealing with all that trauma of like dealing with like how to operate in like high school at a public school.
Of course.
Plus like, you know, not feeling my best in my body. So it was really hard. And people started to treat me differently. It became one of those things where like we all used to, for dance, we go like McDonald's or we go to Sonic or whatever, right? And people would be like, well, maybe you want to get like a salad, or maybe you shouldn't be drinking that, or maybe you shouldn't be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it basically felt like I kind of silenced myself. Like I'm very outgoing, very social, like as you know and can see, but like it was like I just got quiet for years.
Of course.
And I just felt like everywhere I went, someone was freaking like telling me what to do, how to do it. Don't drink that water, drink it faster, do this. And I was like, I'm suffocating.
That sucks.
You know, yeah.
That's overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, you
right?
said what, like 12, 13, 14? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, and it just was like, fuck, you know, like leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And so basically, you know, if you continue to like look through the trajectory of my life, like I had like danced so hard and so much, so long. And I got into this dance college that was going to be in California or New York. I was really excited about it. There's 2 different, you go to whichever one you wanted to. And I had auditioned to do it. Yeah. Well, literally no one thought that I would make it. And so I made it. And then my parents were like, yeah, you're not going to California or New York to dance. And I was like, that's my dream. I've been literally like
busting
prepping for this.
Whole life.
What are you fucking? What are you talking about? You know? And they were like, no. I mean, you're young. We just don't think it's safe. Whatever. And again, if I would have gone, I probably would have had major eating disorders, like major, just like body image issues, whatever.
Yeah, it all worked out how it should.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was like you just killed my dream. So you can pick where I go to school, and I'm not going to be happy about it kind of thing, you know?
You got resentful.
Yeah. And so I was like, my life's over, whatever. So I felt very lost. And so I went to UT Knoxville, rushed a sorority because my half-sister was in a sorority. So my dad thought it'd be a good idea to like meet people. Yeah. That was very toxic, but you know, it provided opportunities. I met one of my best friends there. Like I made the best out of the situations that I had, right? But freshman year, like I just drank a ton. Like I was unhealthy. I remember waking up, bruh, I would eat like a tuna fucking sandwich and like a milkshake. And like, what? You know what I mean? Like I had no sense of like food and whatever. And like I went to the gym one time with my like pretty roommate. Yeah. And I literally walked in there. I was like, I'm never coming back in here again.
See, my first college experience, you might have heard it. You know, I got hooked on drugs when I went to college and I just started taking pills. And that was my issue. So, and same thing though. I had no awareness for diet or anything like that. I mean, it was pretty shitty. Now, when I went back to school after the military, I had all these kids. It was funny because I'd pull up on my Harley and I'd be in this vest and like, you know, come from the whole like MC world. And I'd always get these guys trying to get me to join their frats. Right. But I think it was just so they could use me.
Yeah, 100%.
Against other frats. And I'm like, I see what y'all are doing.
Like the bouncer, like the muscle.
Yeah, they're like, dude, you wouldn't even have to rush. And I'm like, wait, y'all are just trying to use me as a bully. Right. It was pretty funny though. And because I flirted with the idea just because I thought it could be a good story. But I was like, man, I got too much shit going on. I'm past that stage.
Yeah, and I mean, I met the girls, and a lot of them follow me now, and a lot of them are supportive and whatever. But it was just like, okay, so for me, like when people talk, like they'll say now, they'll be like, oh, well, like when did you start taking like selfies? And like, you know, because I do the mirror pictures and stuff like that, because I dealt with like body dysmorphia and stuff growing up. And because here's the thing that I want people to understand too. I always loved myself. Like even when I was at my heaviest, when I was like with dancing, when everyone was telling me like if you were sitting here telling me like, oh, don't eat that chicken or whatever, I'm like, bro, like I mean, I look great. Like, I think I should have that chicken. Like, what's wrong with, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it was always external. It wasn't coming from inside. Like, I was wearing crop tops before it was even a thing, you know? Like, there's pictures of me at 10 years old wearing crop tops. Like, I just thrived in that and what I felt good in and whatever. So it was like, I listened to other people, not necessarily it came from myself. So when I was in college, like these like sorority girls and people would like make fun of me because they're like, oh, like literally in front of a whole room of people, we need you guys to stop taking selfies because it makes us look really bad, da, 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 da. Just like tearing me down, right? And everyone knew it was directed like at me.
Yeah,
And
it was
like,
obvious.
and then like now I have people copying literally how I take my selfies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Being like loving themselves.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
And it's just like, I've been doing this shit. Like the only difference is that people actually care now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I would literally have my one best friend, and she'd be like, go D. Like, you know, on the like, Facebook, like 10 years ago.
And you're at the point now to where I'd imagine you got that armor built up, but it doesn't bother you, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's one thing I've had to learn over the years. I've always, asked for people's opinions moving forward because I've been always kind of questioned myself because I want to do the right thing. I want to go about things the right way. But when it all came full circle, I never really liked listening to what other people told me to do. I just like doing things my fucking way.
Exactly.
And I figure it out along the way. But, like all these external things, and I'm still dealing with people from telling me their unsolicited opinions. Like, yo, I'm happy. I'm figuring it out. Yeah. If I ask you, that's one thing. If 100%. I'm really fucking up my life and like, I'm hooked on drugs, maybe you want to impose on that. But you just got to start cutting people off and just charging forward. I mean, even 100%. My girl had to tell me that. She's like, Joe, when you do what you do, you crush it.
Yes.
But when you listen to other people, you start to regret it. And so just have confidence in that. And I was like, hell yeah, babe. Thanks. But so
I love that. I love that. And that's how it should be. And that's like, I never want any of my people like that, either followers, clients, friends, whatever, to feel how I felt most of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you got clients, obviously they're paying for that service and they want your opinion on what they need to do for health, right? So it's one thing. I got one client. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But he loves his beer on the weekends. So I'm like, how many beers you had this weekend? You know what I'm saying?
But see,
and I give him shit, but
I'm literally like, run with it. Like, if that's your lifestyle and that's what you're doing, like, okay. But like, how can we make it a little bit better like the next day?
Yeah, you just educate them. Like, hey, there are better choices.
And I never make them feel like shameful. Like, they're like, Dani, like, I did this. I'm like, dude, like, this is not a judgment zone. Like, that was last week. Like, today's a new day. Yeah, like, I don't care that you ate the whole cake.
You're here today.
Did you eat a whole cake right now?
Yeah.
Like, no. So let's go on.
Yeah.
Like, let's not live in the past. I think so. Yeah. So I deal with that with them, but yeah, it was just a lot of just like constantly people telling me their shit, and so it wasn't until probably until I got a like good group of people around me, like in junior year of college when I was like teaching group fitness, and then I was doing personal training as well.
Yeah.
That I like and got a mentor and all that stuff. That like joined a business fraternity. Like things started to really turn around, and I felt good in my body, and I was like loving myself. And I was like one of the hardest teachers like at UT, and then like I was just crushing like different stereotypes over and over again. And I kind of came into my own in that, and I started quieting the nonsense that I was hearing from everyone. So
it takes time to do that, but once you do, you're like, it opens up so many more doors.
Yeah, it just becomes like a realistic like regimen. Like
it's unfortunate because you see so many people do that just their whole entire fucking lives. Yes. Hey, I'm going to college for this because my dad thinks it's a good idea, and if I don't do it, they're not going to provide or whatever the case is. But this is what I need to do, and then they end up getting into a career where they're miserable.
And that's why I support so
and that
many
leads
local
to
businesses.
and that leads to settling on more things because then you settle on who you get married to and like all this shit, and then you go through this life with a mask on rather than just fucking like putting your foot down to other people. And I think 100%. That's a huge thing, but unfortunately a lot of people fall in that trap. It breaks my heart. So and I have a few times throughout my life, but I've learned from it, and you just kind of like
you just move forward.
You move forward away from it. So, okay, moving forward.
You're doing great, and I love your energy, but you're super animated, and you're like all over the place. So just...
I can't help it, man. I need a headset mic. Give me a headset.
Keep it... you can hold it. You can literally do this. I do this all the time.
Well, shit, I invested so much in these mics. I was like, hell yeah, but you know what? I'm going to get a multi-directional mic just for Dani.
I love that. I love that shit. It's like my mic that comes in. So I'm like, can I use that one? No. Like, and it's blue, black. Yep.
See, I'm trained now. So even if I just got one to put there, that way the guests don't have to worry about as much. Me, he's had to yell at me like every episode. I'm like, okay, I'm right on top of it. We're good, Logan. Don't worry.
That's what I'm saying.
forgot the freaking camera today for the audience. Just looking at Dani and them while I'm talking. That's why I'm not talking. But
Dude, I love your
notice,
input, though.
it's
We
literally
love your
like
input.
almost touching my mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
But you're doing great. Just
thank you.
stay right there for me.
so moving forward, past college and stuff like that, you
Yeah.
know, I think I saw somewhere that you went into some domestic issues or like bad relationship that's kind of led to other things. Like, tell us a little bit about that, because I mean, that seems to be a pretty common theme. I know everybody knows Whitney's
Yes.
story. Lydia, she has a story of her own that we'll share. It's pretty rough. And, I've been there to support her through it, but it's a
Yeah.
common thing. And I think a lot of people have experienced domestic issues in their own way.
Yeah.
I haven't past a relationship. Like, I wasn't physical, but I think more mental. But,
Yeah.
tell us about that. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah. So like I said, I danced all my life, right? And I never had time for relationships. Like, I had maybe like 2 kind of boyfriends, like in high school, right? And I was just like, I'm too busy for this. Like, they don't want to talk on the phone, and I'm like, no. Like, I have dance tomorrow. Like, I have homework. I had goals, right? And my whole life has been very scheduled. So
unless people could like work with that,
yeah,
you're like, nope.
And I just knew it wasn't fair to them. And
Yeah.
I was at like 15 years old, 16 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, no. And so then I go to college. Well, what happened? Started drinking, was insecure, following in everyone else's stuff. And I was always the girl who was every guy's best friend that like they like wanted to mess around with when like she wasn't, like when no one was around. And it really was shitty. Like I was in love with like my best friend, and like he did that, but then would date these girls that were very thin and looked the part. Okay. And so it was one of those where like that happened over and over again. And again, to finally, I mean, I went on like these dates and stuff like that in college, but I had 7 different internships during my college career. I had a major, I had a minor. I mean, I was in my VP of events for a nonprofit. Like, there were so many different things that I did. I just didn't take the time, and I didn't know myself either. So I wanted to know myself, feel my best, and not let anyone take me off that path.
That's easy to do, though. A lot of people run into that. They're in such a hard charging pursuit towards all these external things, and they totally forget about this.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And that's big in like professional athletes, Olympians, all these things, and they lose who they are along the way.
Yeah, and so then I went to an all-women's healthy living resort in Vermont. I got this fitness internship there, and I was like, hell yeah, right? Well, I was there for like 9 months. Well, it's all women, so there was no men, and it was in a small like ski town in Vermont. So I learned everything about my craft there. I didn't talk to anybody. It was the best time ever. Like, I really felt like I got to know myself very well up there. Ran a half marathon, went to Fenway Park, and
It was
did
a lot more
Spartan
laid
race.
back and everything.
Oh yeah, and people talked about loving
UT.
themselves and body positivity, and it was like this high-end resort that people from all over the world
I
came
want to go to
to.
Vermont. It's pretty nice.
It is nice. You
I got
would
some
you would
family
really
up there.
thrive, and like you would like it. And it wasn't even like, it was beautiful. I went around this time of year, and it was amazing. So I stayed up there and like did the fitness internship. Did it for like like I said, a little like 9 months or so, and then because I had made connections with those people up there, they got me a job in Franklin. And I went to that job or whatever. Well, when I went to that job, I thought I was going to be like a personal trainer, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, "Oh, the CEO like gave me a job." I'm like, "No, we don't have. We think it's gonna be really hard for you to be a personal trainer here."
At the place that was all supportive and stuff, they said that?
No. Like at the place they were like, after I like left from the Vermont place.
Okay.
Like
okay.
the Vermont place was awesome. They loved me.
Was it because of the image stuff?
Yes.
Like they're okay.
Because they were Franklin, Tennessee, and I didn't look the part, right? So then it was like, okay, well, I can't, I just was like, well, is there anything? And they're like, well, we have membership services. It's like accounting. If you know me, you know that I can't do math, okay? So anyway, so it was basically like, you can tell your story to all the members. So it actually turned the negative into a positive. I did that for about 6 months. I got really depressed, and I had like suicidal thoughts and things like that throughout that time because I was so low. My friends are gone. I'm like not around anybody. I'm in Franklin commuting from my parents' house. Yeah, I have this like salary $40,000 job that I signed for, but I'm literally just like doing membership, not working out, like.
Yeah.
So finally, I was like, you know what? I've got to know all these people here.
You probably felt so judged and just.
Yes, it was awful, and it was just rude. Like people sucked there, and it's no longer in business, and I think that's karma for sure. But I knew because of how they acted to me, so anyway. But I ended up meeting everyone in that gym, and there was thousands of people in that gym. So that's how Franklin community got to know me through that gym. So I started subbing classes. Like I would literally work membership, then sub a class. I would teach water aerobics. I would teach group fitness. I'd do back of the house. I was having like 7 different like jobs within that job. Okay. Just to like make more money and just to also like get my name out there. So finally, after 6 months of that, I was like, dude, I'm just going to be a personal trainer here and like teach classes as well. But like, if I fail, I fail. Who cares? I'm with my parents at their house. Like, you know, I'm commuting every day. I'm going to give it my all. I had one client for 3 months, this old man. Loved him to death. And people kind of laughed at me. They made fun of me, whatever. Fast forward a year, I became the top salesperson for that gym, okay? So not out of male or female, like top in general. From people who have been there for years, I grossed that gym the most money every month. And I loved it. Like, I rocked it out, and it was awesome. And so finally after that, then it was like a month later, it was like, I guess like a month later, I decided to start my own business.
Well, I want to say real quick, there's an important point there because, you know, I've had some people want to get into just a studio space. They don't want to train because there is an appeal to it. A lot of people don't want a public gym atmosphere.
Yes.
They just want something private, something more intimate. And so that's worked out really well. And, you know, for example, I'm getting connected with this lady that's getting me connected with veterans that want to be trained by a veteran in a private setting. And I'm like, well, I got that. Yep. Great. So it's beautiful. But then there's people that have come to me. They're like, I just don't know. Like that, you know, I got to pay rent and I'm not as confident in myself to like make that leap. And I'm like, you know, I get it. But at the same time, if you want to get somewhere, you got to take that leap. 100%. And you did that. You were like, I had one client, but you fucking stuck to it and went balls to the wall. And then look what happened. And that's what it's hard to instill that confidence in people, but you just got to let them know you believe in them, you know, but they can't take the leap. But they have to want to, you know.
But also I got to my lowest. Like, I was at my lowest point. And it was like, I either got to jump, like sink or swim. And this was the same thing that happened in college. I'm sitting there on a Tuesday eating a freaking calzone. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? You know what I mean?
I've had a calzone in forever.
Right? But like, I would do that. And I was sitting there, I was like, I don't even recognize myself in the mirror. Like and that's when I decided to start doing group fitness and stuff. So it just like, so it became one of those things where, like after that happened in Franklin, started my own business, did that or whatever, and just like started doing fitness events, did my Find Your Fit festival, like did all these different things, bringing the community together and trying to show people like to have like love for themselves, like in that area, because it's very, you know, high end and very superficial.
Of course.
So anyway, all that to say, then I end up training in Nashville as well. And so I'm training in Franklin, Nashville, meanwhile living in Murfreesboro. Well, I realized after a year of my business, I don't have anything for me, like in terms of fitness, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to like find something that's for me. So I ended up finding a trainer. And the only reason I trained with him, Matt McQuiston of Klug Fitness, the only reason I started training with him because I saw him at the Nashville Fit Games where I competed and I got second. I was pissed that I got second, but also I was like, and this is me, like not this before strongman or anything. And I saw how motivating he was with his client. I was like, dang, like I really want to like have that. So fast forward, we start training together and he was like, you know, you're really strong, right? And I was like, well, I thought I was, but like people have always told me like they give me 5-pound weights. Cause I went to like Barry's, Orange Theory. I've tried over 100 different fitness classes in my time because I did a fitness festival where I brought them as sponsors and like that. Anyway, and literally like I did all of that, and everyone would literally just hand me like light weights, or they'd say do the female weight, and I'm like, well, actually, I can
places
do more.
like that they kind of push that a little bit. The lighter
because
weights
of why? Because of how I look, which I get. But see, I never for my clients, I don't care if you're 100 pounds or you're 300 pounds. Every single one of them did the same assessment.
Yeah.
I don't assume you can't stand up off of one leg. Yep. I don't assume that you can't whatever. You know what I mean? Like, of course, we do the same thing. I treat you the same way. Because I never, like I said, I just hated that feeling. And so anyway, so he believed in me. He thought I was capable. He's like, you need to talk to this guy, Music City Strongman. His name's Blake. And he's like, he does these strongman competitions. So I ended up calling him. We talked for like 2 hours on the phone. We ended up, he said, there's a competition this coming weekend. Do you want to go? I said, only if Matt will come with me. And I was like, I wasn't really going to do it anymore, but I wanted you to do it. I was like, compete with me or I'm not going. So me, Matt, and Blake roll up there. Me and Matt win. Okay. And this is like me doing 150-pound sandbag carries, 330 deadlift.
Easy stuff.
Yeah, you know. But like, again, I hadn't pushed that. I hadn't trained for that. This is literally like 5 days after knowing about what the sport is. Yeah. And just took my mind out of it and just freaking crushed it. Had the best time. And then, so that takes our trajectory of me doing strongman, right? So you fast forward a little bit to where me and Blake become really good friends, really best friends. And he's like, hey, I want to start doing these free classes for strongman. How should I market this? And I'm like, hey, this is what you should do, whatever. Well, he tells me, hey, on I'm going to have this guy start coming to the classes. He actually went to high school with me. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, whatever. Don't care. I'm focused on winning these competitions. So one day I'm in strongman practice and I look up and there's this guy that walks in. Now, note, I was one of the only females doing strongman because it was me, Matt, and Blake. And
yeah,
so
it's not a very female heavy sport.
It wasn't at all. Yeah. And it's growing. Yes. And especially in Nashville, nobody was doing it. And so it was funny because then we start getting like Matt's girlfriend comes in. And this other girl came in, and this other girl, you know what I mean? So slowly, but it's still, everybody seemed to be in like relationships at this point.
Yeah.
And me, you know, with everything going on, I was like kind of dating, like on and off, like finding like guys to go on dates with and whatever. And it was just like not ideal. And
Nothing was clicking.
I'm very much like this. Like I'm very, what's the word? Like if I look at that painting or whatever, I'm very like, oh, not for me, but like cool for him. Okay. Yeah. I know how, like, I'm never going to have that in my house. You see what I'm saying?
My style is my style for sure.
Exactly. But I'm very like black and white with those things.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with men. Okay.
Yeah.
And the fact that I tried to like make it work or like that, it always felt wrong. Like I knew my intuition.
Of course.
You know, so I wanted to relay how I was in my business in my personal life. So me and Blake talked about it. And things were going great. I mean, I'm talking like I'm winning these competitions. I'm thriving in my business. Like, you know, I'm in Nashville now, feeling really good. This is in 2019, I guess. Yeah. And then this guy walks in, and I'm like, okay, don't be your old self. You're the only single person. He's obviously a single person. Like, just assumed, I guess, you know. And I was like, so like, don't go just talk to him or whatever. Just do your workout, right? Yeah. So what I did was I kind of like sitting there, and I kind of look and see him do a lift.
So you were creeping on him.
Yeah, and he failed the lift, and I was like, okay, lame. So I walk out. Well, yeah, I was like, oh, he's not strong, and I want a strong man. So I walk out to go do the stones. He follows me out. About 5 minutes later, he comes out there, and he's talking to me. He's like, tell me a little bit about your story. You know, like, what's your deal? And so I tell him, I was like, man, like he like took an interest in like my life. Like that's so cool. Like, right? Anyway, so all that to say,
we're right on time. Okay, cool.
All that to say, we get to, like he asked me he didn't ask me on it. There was like a couple months later, like where he wasn't really consistent. And, you know, I'm consistent. I'm like, oh, I'm there every week doing strongman. Yeah. And so he wasn't really around, but then came in sparingly and we would talk and stuff.
Of course.
Well, we went to this competition and I did not do well. It was the one competition I didn't do my best at. And they were just stacked girls. I mean, I didn't come in last, but like I didn't do as good as I thought I would do, right? Yeah. So I was feeling a little insecure. That's important for people to know and listen to. In that moment, I kind of was whatever. So I started flirting with him more and was like, okay, like whatever. And this was like right before Mother's Day, so around May, I guess. And
that is interesting though. So your interest heightened once that insecurity weighed on you a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
And because I was like, you know, I failed and whatever. Because I was very back in the day, a very perfectionist mindset. Yeah. And with this prep of this last bodybuilding show, it really showed me how much I've grown about like, yes, I was perfect with my meals and stuff like that, but like I showed myself grace on like other things,
of course,
and not taking on too much and understanding like my boundaries. So I really felt great about that. But yeah, so basically he ended up. We were all at a table, and Blake said something like, "Man, you're really feeling Wes, huh?" And everybody's laughing, like, "Man, yeah, y'all got a connection, whatever, you know." And because everybody wanted me to be happy, you know, whatever. Yeah. And so Blake calls him up and was like, "Hey, man, can I give Dani your number, or can I give you Dani's number or something like that?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, like let's do it." So he basically sets it up for me, right? Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like cool, like whatever." So we start texting all night long, stuff like that. And then he asked me out like that next week, and I'm like, "Dang, okay, like cool, this will be great." Well, we actually
that's a good stopping point.
We'll be right back. Okay. We're getting close. All right, everybody. Quick ad read for you guys. As you know, Relentless Pursuit, as always, Relentless_Pursuit on Instagram, Relentless Pursuit _HQ on Instagram, RelentlessPursuitLifestyle.com for everything else. And check out the podcast on all platforms. We got it on 6 platforms, I believe. So keep checking it out. Keep showing support. Thank you very much. Now to pass it over to Dani D. That way she can share what she's got going on.
Yeah. So guys, if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Dani D Fitness 1, the number 1. And I have my podcast, Love Your Body. It's on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. that comes out every week on Wednesdays. So from there, other things that if you want to know about me, I have my Fight Energy Booster. You can find it at all Nutrition Factory locations, as well as I sell it online. I personal train out of a private personal training studio in Nashville called Next Level Fitness. And I do Move Fit, which is my dance format. It's a body positive fitness format, so it's a lot of fun. I do it all over Middle Tennessee. So I've done it anywhere from Bonnaroo Music Festival to Lululemon and True Food Kitchen. So
Oh, yeah. Good shit. And she's going to be training out of here. I'm just kidding.
right. Just gonna, if I get a helicopter or can get a plane, then yes, let's do that.
And that's what he says something to me about, we just need to get you an office up here. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's 45-minute drive, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that.
He's looking at moving out this way, though.
Just one of us got to make
maybe.
it big, and then we get a jet.
Margaret doesn't know that yet.
I'm
but
telling you, I want a helicopter.
By the way, just real quick on the ad read, Dani's supplement is amazing. It
Thank
really is.
you.
And I really would not say that if it wasn't, but it is really good.
What specifically is a supplement?
Yeah, so it's called Fight Energy. And so what it is a daily dose of vitamins as well as about 125 milligrams of caffeine. So it's basically going to keep you just like steady. The way I say it to people is it's kind of like Adderall. Like it just keeps you steady. It's not like beta alanine where it's going to make you like
Get your mic.
It's not where it's going to make you like up, down, up, down, up, down. It's just like just chill. Like I had it before I got here and I'm like, it's
Nice.
You don't say.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
You have zero energy.
And-
Why are you so unenergetic?
Right, and it's people that like can do like I've sold it to people. I mean, all ages. Like it's like people who work out, who don't work out, moms, dads, anybody can have it without feeling like, okay, dang, I just had like 300 milligrams. I'm about to crash because whatever.
Yeah.
So
See, that's my problem. I took like a stimulant break for a while there, and I felt great. I was like, all right, my body's resetting, and then. I don't know. I went on a long drive or something. I took an Adderall.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then I started getting back with the energy.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it. It's like you repeat that cycle.
Yep.
But then at the end of the day, I'm just like, fuck, I'm dead.
Yeah. Well, I always needed something because of that acid reflux I told you about.
Yeah.
Like I need something first thing in the morning. So like to drink, and I just can't drink like a energy drink first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's why I created a product that worked for me, and now I sell it to the masses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
think you told me about that last time I was with you that was the reason why you did it, and I did not know that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's very cool.
The energy drink thing, it's honestly a podcast thing for me. I like being like high energy when we're recording just because I want it to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If I'm tired, it's going to suck
Yeah.
because I want to engage with the guest and, be tuned in. So I like to
Yeah.
have like, some stimulus going just to keep me rolling. But
So yeah, check them out. And now back to the show.
yeah.
So we went on our first date.
Yes.
And
We'll pick it right up.
and earlier in that day, it was the Nashville Fit Games, and I actually sponsored it. And so I
Okay.
sponsored a tire flip before I even did my whole big tire flip thing, which is hilarious. And so it was like people were flipping the tire and whatever, and it was the best day ever. I was running around in sports bra and booty shorts. My clients had competed. It was
Just bring it up.
it was just like such a
It's
fun.
close. It's close enough. It's just underneath you now.
Okay, good. So it was just like such a fun day, right? But I actually
Perfect.
ended up getting sunburned really bad. And he was like, yeah, let's go to the pharmacy for dinner, like in Nashville. And this is when I lived in Murfreesboro. So I not only had to do the Nashville Fit Games, but then drove home and then came back out to Nashville after getting ready and was completely sunburned. So like my mom helped me get ready, was super excited. I didn't even know if I wanted to go on the date, but my best friends, Blake and Jordan, were both like, yeah, like you need to go and just have fun.
Yeah. You deserve it.
And yeah, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Whatever. So my mom, I put on the one outfit that like can cover up my weird tan lines and whatever. And I felt really beautiful. And I went, met him out there. He was already sitting down. We had like a good dinner, whatever. I told him my story and stuff. And then we were going to go to like this concert, but then like it actually didn't end up happening. And so we just walked around and stuff. And like, it was a pretty like good day, I guess.
Yeah.
But there were some red flags in there that now I see that I didn't see before kind of thing.
Curious.
And and so looking back, I was just so excited to go out with somebody. It was just like a special thing and
They
get
were
dressed
into
up.
you,
and,
and it's like, why not?
And we had things in common and whatever. And and so we do that. And so then after that, like I wasn't really feeling it. I'm feeling him, and I'll tell you this story. But so I wasn't like. The end of the night's coming, and we're walking around, and he like tried to kiss me, and I was like, like I had already known I kind of wasn't feeling it. Okay, well, fast forward to walking around the corner, and he like pushed me up against the wall and starts like like making out with me, okay? And the reason this isn't important is because like it was one of those moments where you're like, damn, like that was like a movie. That was so attractive. That was so whatever. It was so dramatic, right?
Yeah, because I can imagine it though, because you like turned it away and you're like, no, and then he's just like, oh, she just wants the pressure.
But you see what I'm saying? But I didn't.
Yeah.
I genuinely wasn't really vibing.
No, it was weird.
Because what it really took, you can piss me off so much when it happens like this. Okay, we're having dinner, and you invited me to dinner. Okay. I ordered a burger and like fries. All right. Wasn't even drinking. I think he had like a couple beers, whatever. And he had said something like, oh, I guess I'll get the check. Oh, okay. Well, you invited me to this. So like, did you expect me to get the check? We're not friends. You have an interest in me and you want me to pay half and half or something. I don't know what, anyway. So he was like, but
always a bad impression.
Well, he was like, you can get the tickets for the concert thing. And I was like, okay, cool. And you got to understand, I'm still living at my parents' house in Murfreesboro because I'm like waiting for the right opportunity to move up here or move to Nashville, whatever. And so I just wasn't like, again, it wasn't like I was tight on money. I can pay for my burger and fries, but you know what I mean?
But as a man, when you take a female on a date, right?
Yeah.
You get the dinner, you get the tickets, you take care of them. You show them you're into them, and you cover the stuff, make it a stress-free night. And
again, I didn't know his situation really either, so I was kind of like, okay, well, whatever.
I think it should be expected, to be honest. That's just
I think it should have been too. And he was like old school. Like I'll explain. He kind of like reminds me a lot of like you guys, like you and like Will and like Jesse and stuff like that. Like the beard, the kind of like, like strong man, kind of like you guys work out. You're like very into your, whatever your beliefs are, like you're in it, you're like with it. You're very like, have good jobs. I mean, you're just like very like stand up men, I like to say, right?
Thank you.
And so anyway, so it was one of those where he just, and my best friend knew him. And so I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like there's all these tie-ins. Well, so anyway, after that happens, I ended up dropping him off at his house because his phone wasn't really working or whatever. And there were like cars there, but I was like, didn't really think anything of it. He made you drive too? And because he was like Ubering because he like didn't have his, but no, exactly. So anyway, come to find out, like he didn't have his license. Like there were all these things, all these red flags that started happening. But for 6 months, like I guess it was 8 months total. He met my family. We went to we dated. It was like we were 2 months in. I basically looked at him and I was like, "Hey, what is this?" Because like we were like we're hanging out all the time. We're doing strongman together, whatever. Like and he was like, "This is a relationship." And like he knew that's all I ever really wanted. He was kind of manipulative and narcissistic, and so he knew that like all I wanted was to be like someone's girlfriend kind of thing. Yeah. Like finally like. My business is great, my life is great, all these things, and then
you're his too,
and and then like we had that partnership. Like I was like, oh my gosh, he had a house.
It's kind of like you're the one that was chosen, like you were chosen.
Yeah,
it's like
and it was such a cool. Like I was like, okay, and so this is right before I turned, I think 26 years old, and so I had like done my 425 deadlift. I became national strongest woman. Like at that competition, that was our first like outing as like a couple.
When was this?
2019, July.
Cool.
And then we're like getting to know each other up until like Christmas and whatever. But I was like, man, he doesn't want me to meet his family. He doesn't like. There's all these red flags. And so then it came to like the beginning of the next year. We go to a strongman competition. He was kind of acting weird or whatever. Didn't think anything of it. I actually got hurt at that competition in 2020. That's when my vertebrae shifted forward, crushed my disc, and now my left leg is numb. And so it has been for like 2.5 years. And so kind of lost function of it and everything like that. And so what happened was I was starting to like take care of myself, but then like a week later, he ends up in the hospital. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? So I can't get a hold of him. And I'm thinking, I don't even know his brother and sister and them. I know their names, but like, I don't know. Are they on Facebook? I need to reach out to somebody. So I reached out to his best friend who also did strongman with us. And I said to him, and by the way, I'm doing this like, I'm saying all the shit. So on this podcast. Okay. So, because you got to understand, like, I don't get to talk a lot about myself. Everyone a lot of times wants to talk about my business and even in relationships. And it does feel very transactional a lot of my life. So I really hone in on the people who actually like, give a fuck about me.
No, that's the important part of this too. Is like I just want to put it out there.
And that's why I was so excited to come
I love
on.
knowing the individual. That's
Yeah.
I love people's stories and just interacting with their deep shit. So
Well, we talked about that with Charles and Whitney back to back because Charles, like halfway through the podcast, was like, I just have to say, I appreciate you guys so much for not asking me a single bodybuilding question.
Yeah.
We're like, dude, that's not what we're here for, really.
Right.
It's not a bodybuilding podcast.
Yes. And so basically, I ended up, so I meet up with him. He was like, Dani, don't talk to them. Because I went to his house and there's like some people leaving the house and they're like looking sad. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Because I knew, he didn't text me in the morning and I knew something about that. Like, he's either in jail or he's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And his best friend was like, he is in the hospital. I'm coming to you. I'm crying. I'm freaking out, whatever. And you gotta understand, like I said, we've only been dating, I guess, like 8 months. But like, he met my family. He met my clients. Like, I mean, he was there. Like, we talked every day. He was my best friend.
Yeah.
And we did strongman together and whatever. And so then he ends up, so his best friend comes and he looks at me, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, whatever. And he was like, Dani, Wes is in the hospital. He's unconscious. He's in a coma. You know, all this stuff and whatever. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? And I was like, I know he wasn't feeling well. He did a 40-pound cut for the strongman competition, but like, what, you know? Anyway, and he looks at me. I was like, okay, well, we have to go. Like, we got to go. And this is before pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, Dani, like, you can't go to the hospital. And I was like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, let's go. I've been thinking about this all day long. I'm not training clients right now. Like, what's up? He's like, Dani, like, he's like, I have to tell you something. And I was like, what? And he was like, and this is somebody that watched us week after week after week together, like hung out with us. And he knew. And he said, Wes is married.
Oof. Damn. I didn't expect that.
I did not see that one coming.
I was thinking, like maybe an OD or something. I don't know, because a lot of people like do drugs, but.
So, but that's part of it too.
Okay.
But,
Jesus, but the marriage thing.
So I just like fell on the ground just in front of his house that I had been to 1,000 times. And anyway, and I fell on the ground and he was like, if you want to hit me in the face, you can. And I was like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, okay, but what is he in the hospital for? Like, what's
obviously
going on?
you can't trust this guy anymore because
Right.
he's fucking hidden that the whole time.
And the first thing I'm thinking is, does Blake know? My best friend. You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like my whole world shook. So I'm going to the hospital. Like, I'm going there. And he was like, Dani, like, you can't. I was like, no, I'm calling his brother. I'm gonna figure it out, or like, give me someone's number, whatever. Anyway, I don't really remember. It kind of went black. I called Blake, and me and him meet at the hospital, and I'm like, you go in there, you find out what's going on, like, whatever. I don't know. So I hug on to Blake, and his wife at the time was there, and Blake's wife, and we're outside the parking lot. No one will let us in the hospital, kind of thing. His friends were like, no, and so I'm literally like hugging him, like, did you know? And he was like, no. He's like, Dani, I had no idea. And I'm like, he's apparently unconscious, but he just woke up or something like that. Anyway.
I'm sure that was a relief with Blake, though.
Yes, 100%.
That would've
because,
sucked. Are y'all still close?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, like, things got kind of crazy because he ended up, like, working for me and stuff. And then, like, you should never work with friends. I'll just go ahead and say that.
It's difficult.
Yeah. And it all depends. But, again, so we ended up... so we ended up driving because they would not let us go in there, and I didn't want to see him. And he was like, yeah, literally, if you go up there right now, it's his wife, his mom, his dad, everything. And I just was like, what the fuck? And so anyway, so then my mom comes up and she's like sitting there, and we're all driving around me, her and Blake, and like going through all of this, like, what in the world? So anyway, then I think fast forward to like 2 days later, I basically threatened his brother, and I was like, I am going to see him, like, I'm going to see him.
Yeah.
And so his brother was like, look, you can come from like this time to this time, but that's it. Like, we can't have we can't have anybody see anyone, or whatever. And I was like, fuck all of you, I'm coming in. So basically I go to the hospital with my brother as my backup because he had met him, and my mom. And I go in there, and his dad's in there, and I meet him, and I was like, hey, and he was like, this is my best friend, is how he introduced me. And his dad was like, yeah, and then he walks out. So I'm like, what happened? He's like, they say I have like rhabdomyolysis or whatever, all this stuff, and my kidneys were failing, and all. It's this elaborate story, right?
Yeah.
To which I didn't find out was not true until months later. And we're sitting there, and I told him, I was like, Wes, like, you're never gonna see me again. Like, you're never becoming a strongman.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of my
You
life.
can't trust him ever again.
I'm like, leave me alone, like everything, right? And all that to say, he just was such a manipulator, and he just was like, I don't even know. And basically, like I said, like basically almost died. Like they found him on the ground, like, whatever. And so anyway, so I'm sitting there, and somehow he says something, and we end up kissing, and just like, what? And I was like, goodbye or whatever. Well, of course, I don't block him. I don't whatever. My brother even comes and prays over him, and like in his brother. And I'm just like, what is happening in my life? So I go to eat dinner with my mom and my brother, and I remember sitting there, and I get a text from him, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's like I couldn't stop, because it's like I still wanted to like know all these things, like why would you lie? All these questions that I couldn't in that short time at the hospital couldn't answer, right? And I was in love with him, and I believed that he loved me, and I knew that he had a bad past, and a lot of things that had traumatic that happened to him, and he had actually been in prison for a little bit, and that was because of a wreck and all this stuff, and so he dealt with that grief, and so I always like made excuses for him, right?
Yeah.
But
that tends to happen a lot too.
Yes. Yep. And so then somehow we end up still texting and whatever. And then he was like, I'm going to leave her. She knows about you, all the stuff or whatever. Da, 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 da. I kind of dealt with that. And then it was like March. And I was like, hey, I actually have nobody that can help me out with something. I'm getting this gum graft surgery done. Could you like help me, like at least pick me up or whatever, and stuff like that. And so we ended up talking, and it's like he just kept he lied and lied and lied and lied. And so anyway, so we end up still being together, and he goes to help me with the gum graft surgery. Well, I am on my medicine, and this is actually, I just got my contract to be an influencer for this high rise in Nashville. So my life is like going up, and I'm like really excited. And this is March, right before pandemic happens. Well, I was laying there on the couch, and he had been talking to his, they have a baby also. So they had a child that was a 1-year-old, or not even 1-year-old, 6-month-old. And she didn't live in the house. She lived in Knoxville and was like studying school and stuff. So that's why he could make this work. Okay,
I was wondering, because it seems like a lot of time invested into you.
Yes, and it was. I was over there 4 times a week. Like, I mean, it was. He would make me dinner. He would buy, like, he would just take me like. Anyway, it was crazy. So basically, we end up. So I end up hearing him like yelling kind of on the laptop with her or whatever. And so he comes out, and I guess he was just upset. And I hug him. I was like, "Hey, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine, whatever." Well, fast forward 2 minutes, and I hear this in the closet, like in the laundry room. I go in there, and I'm like, I see him, and I was like, hey, what was that noise? Like, what's up? And I'm on my like hydro whatever because of my gum graft surgery. And I'm like, well, what was that? And he was like, like he like mumbles. And then he looks at me, and he starts to fall. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I catch him, okay, like, right? So being a strong woman, like, catch him or whatever, like, lay his head down on the ground. And I'm like, Wes, like, come on, what's going on? Because he had all these medicines that he was on from the previous thing that happened 2 months prior, right? Yeah. The quote-unquote rhabdomyolysis. Well, anyway, I'm flipping out. I call 911. They walk me through compressions because I'm CPR certified, but I've never had to do CPR on anyone before. Yeah. So I started doing that for 8 minutes, basically broke his rib, whatever, and keeping him alive. And the ambulance comes. They come in, police come in, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they're searching the place, and they're like, hey, and I was like, what's happening? Like, he has a heart condition, his heart's at like 18%, and they were like, no, like, he's fine. He's in the ambulance. He's awake. I was like, no, he was like white. Like, he was dying. Yeah. Like, what's happening? And they were like, no, we gave him Narcan. And I've never dealt with drugs. I've never known people who do drugs, like weed, like that stuff I've known of. I don't know enough. I'm thinking about a movie that I saw one time thinking Narcan, what the fuck is that? Like, and so I'm putting 2 and 2 together, but I've also traumatic, but I'm also on medicine, but I also just had a surgery in my mouth. Like, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Whatever. And then they're like searching the premise or whatever, they're searching all stuff. And I was like, and I look in and grab, I was like, yeah, I'll help you look. Well, what are we looking for? And they're like, fucking drugs. I'm like, what? And I'd opened this thing and saw stuff in there. And I just like closed it. Looking back, should have got his ass thrown in jail and like had him like, because he was already on parole from like his like 13-year sentence of like when he got in his car accident.
So was it like pills?
It was heroin.
Oh shit.
And so I guess is what I don't know. I took pictures, sent it to a best friend that I trusted at the time, and was like, I don't know what's going on. And so then after that happened, I take his car because I didn't have my car because I was stuck in Nashville with him, and I go to whatever it's called, the hospital, and I walk in and I look at him. I'm like, and he just looked shameful and was like, if you need to leave, just leave, just leave me or whatever. I'm a disgrace. Like he starts like really harping on himself or whatever. And I'm like, no, just fucking talk to me. What just happened? Like, is this your heart thing? Is this like, what was that I found? He's like, oh, and I flushed it. Like I didn't know, whatever. And I'm like, what was that? And he was just like, it was just some stuff, whatever, it helped with my pain. And so I'm still, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
he was totally just.
Yes, gaslighting,
fucking with your
manipulative,
head.
yeah, and
that's crazy.
All the things
because you were clueless to it.
Yes,
I mean,
and it maybe too naive, but like when I say literally, like Blake was my first friend that I ever had that had ever even done drugs, and I kind of learned from him like things that he would say, but I truly did not know any of that shit. Yeah. And I didn't ever associate with anyone who did. So to have the person that like I love, like we talked about marriage. I mean, he talked about like obviously like leaving his wife. Like I mean, that was the plan. Like all these things.
But there was all these things too because you're probably looking back now. It's like now you've learned from it, right? And you're like, man, this guy is going to leave his wife for me. But what if he finds someone when he's with me? That's
but that's the thing. It gets even worse. So that was in March, right? So right before pandemic. So whatever. And then so basically I guess we tried to talk to his family and be like that he needed to go to rehab or whatever. And I think he ended up going to rehab for like an outpatient thing or inpatient thing for like it was only like a couple weeks or whatever. But I told him like, you need to leave me alone. I need to work on my goals. Like you need to just like, this is too much, right? Well, I kept letting him come back in. Yeah. Okay. And he kept like he would call me from unknown numbers. He would be all over like whatever. And so it just got crazy.
He had a grip on your heart,
Yeah. And then I think it was, I don't remember which month it was, but he ended up, he ended up falling out again. And I was like getting ready for my date and he'd been acting kind of weird. And I was like really excited because we were working on things. It was great. Like I'd already talked to his wife and she was like, you can have him, obviously, and all this stuff and whatever. And I was like, I won, like, right. And literally, he ended up, I knew something was wrong and I drove there and the back door was locked and I was like, fuck. And I went to the front and I see him on the ground, blood's coming out of his mouth. He's on his back. And I was just like, no. And I can't get the door open. I can't, it's like bars. I can't get it, whatever. And I'm just like, fuck. I call 911 again, whatever. I get there. His phone he was always really private with his phone. I was never allowed to post pictures on my story. I was never allowed to do any of those things. And obviously looking back now, I know why. But he has his phone up like this, unlocked. And I think that was his sign to me, or whatever. And I look down at the phone and I see all these messages from these girls. He's not only on Tinder, he's on Hinge, he's on Bumble, on different names, different profiles, different ages, different shit. Like,
so he was like a serial addict,
shit.
Like not only addicted to drugs,
sex addict, drug,
yeah,
100%. Yeah. And I'm over here like, I thought we were in this together. Like we were working through this. Like I have been tormented and all these things for so long. And this shit happens. And I was just I was fierce. So his brother shows up and he was like, are you going to leave him alone now that you know? And I'm like, you all knew? Why did y'all let him get away with this?
I mean, I know it sounds bad, but it'd be hard for me to just not even, I'd probably look at him and just walk away and be like, man, good luck. I know it sounds heartless, but.
Well, he's getting taken out on a stretcher because this time he's not waking up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They did the Narcan. He didn't wake up. So I'm over here like, what the heck? He's still doing steroids. He's still doing all these things that I didn't, know about, anything like that too. And so this is like, I guess around close to my birthday or whatever. And, or this is like right after my birthday. And basically those girls, I kind of like reached out to them and was just like, hey, I figured it out back and forth. I figured all this stuff out about them. We ended up meeting up. Well, I'm not going to air their shit, but let's just say some of us were safer than others. And so that sucks. And so they had to live with that. And I ended up being like, okay, I got to get out of this. But basically messaged him and was like, all this hateful stuff. And then he was in a coma, right? Well, finally he comes out of the coma. I'm like, I don't care. I'm done, whatever. Well, somehow, I guess I was feeling lonely. It's pandemic, whatever. And we ended up going for like a walk and talking. And then, so again, I let him back in again. So it was just like, he was never going to go. Like it was never going to stop. And we ended up having an intervention with his family because I had found him once again. But this time it was at a gas station and whatever. It was like right around the road from his house. So now I'm like, what is happening? I don't understand. We were doing so good, all these things, whatever. And so that happens. We have an intervention with his family. And I look at them and I said, hey, if you don't do something, I'm not going to save him again. He will die.
Yeah.
And I looked at his mom and said that. Okay. And he hugged me in front of them, kissed me in front of them, was like, this is the love of my life. I mean, it was so fucked up. And this is the first time I got to meet his parents. You know, this thing that I had wanted for so long. And like, that's when it happened after I found him again. And so then after that, he ended up, it was about, I guess like a month after that, they ended up passing away. And for me, the thing is that like, we were on good terms because I wanted him to genuinely just be healthy. I just wanted him to start like doing things that were like being with his daughter.
You said he ended up passing away?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So he passed away October 20th of 2020. Yeah. And
was it an overdose?
Yeah. And but that day he had actually came to see me. So again, we still were talking at this point, but he was like getting the divorce up with his wife. I talked to her and she had said the same thing. So like it was all these things, but he kept manipulating. And honestly, I just thought it was the love of my life. I thought I can't let him, I'm a helper, right? Like that's my job, like to help people be their best selves. And so for me, it's like, I just did not know how to operate at this capacity and so much trauma that I didn't even know. And plus with pandemic, and then I'm alone, and then plus my injury, and I'm in pain every day. I just needed someone there, you know, I needed someone, whatever. And so he ended up, he came to my gym. He said, I wanted to surprise you. I'm here. And I was in between clients. I was like, oh my gosh. So I run out to him and he gives me this kiss that is just like this breathtaking, amazing moment. And I was like, what is this? And then the night before I had this terrible dream. And it was like there used to be a ghost in my parents' house. And she was a real bitch. But there was this ghost in my parents' house, and she used to scare me when I was little. And
ghost, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so in my dream, homegirl's there, my mom is here, and I'm here. And she went like this, like in the dream, like just it was like fucking Harry Potter, where like, you know, it really like takes something from you. And I woke up and I knew something was wrong. So I had messaged him that day, and he's like, well, I'll come by and see you, baby. I'll come by and see you, whatever. So when he came by and saw me and he gave me that kiss, I'm like, this feels weird. Stuff feels weird. Anyway, but I was like, I appreciate it at the time, you know, and I was like, okay. And I was like, we're good. And then I ended up like FaceTiming him, and I'm like, yeah, I'm running to my workout, and I'm da-da-da-da-da as I'm driving. And I'm like, I'm headed to here, you know, and I got a massage. I got this one, right? He was like, okay, you know, and he's like, I'm headed to a job site, you know, and he's like, he kissed me on the FaceTime. And he's like, I love you so much. And I was like, I love you too, you know, and everything like that. And I was like, things are going to get better. Things are going to be good. We're going to be good, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And so I go to my workout, whatever, and he's texting me, and he texted me a picture of his daughter. And he said, someday we're gonna have beautiful children, just like her, or something like that, or whatever. And I was like, yeah. I was like, she's beautiful. And he said, and also I talked to Blake, and I really want to make amends with him. I'm meeting him Thursday. And I was like, okay, this is great. Like, we're moving in the right direction. Getting divorced, gonna be best friends with my best friend. Like, I'm just living in this fantasy world.
Yeah.
You know, your drugs are not the problem. Everything else, the cheating was the problem, not your drugs. And so then, once that happened, I went to my massage or whatever, and like he wasn't texting me, and I was kind of like, okay, well, I have to do all this stuff and whatever. Well, I'm in my Connect apartment, and I see this helicopter come by, and we always talked about doing a helicopter ride together. Saw this helicopter ride, and I come by, and I was like, fuck, he's gone.
You just knew.
And I just was like, where would he be at? Because I wasn't tracking him anymore. Because I told him, I was serious with that before. I told his mother, I'm not going to save him again.
Yeah.
And so I just knew, and I was like, okay. And so I kind of like ate my food, and I was like, just drive by there and see. And I drove by his house, and it was the most depressing thing I'd ever seen, this dark house, whatever. And I was like, God bless. And so I drive then, I don't know, I just drive, and I'm like, I don't know. So I call my best friends up, and I'm like, guys, I don't know, you know, whatever. And all of a sudden his brother's calling me. And me and his brother didn't get along, obviously. And so I hear this message, or I hear him say, he goes, Dani, Wes always told me to be the one to tell you. He didn't want you to find out any other way, but he's passed away. Mm. And I just like, once again, fall on the ground. I'm dry heaving, I'm crying or whatever, like that it was real, that like I didn't, because I didn't go to save him. He then like, he died.
Oh, so you felt guilty.
Yeah, like I knew that like that day was gonna come. I just didn't know it would be that soon, and I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you gotta understand, I'm living a life of torment. Like every day, like I couldn't sit here with my phone not beside me. Like I'm training clients and my phone's on and I'm like shaking.
Yeah, it can.
You know, I'm like
yeah.
because I'm like, hey guys, he went to that barbecue place. He's been to the barbecue place for like 45 minutes. I'm like trying to tell his brother and his best friend, and they're like, Dani, you gotta leave it alone. You can't, whatever. And I'm like, y'all been dealing with this apparently for 12, 13 years. This shit's new to me. This is like 3 months. Literally not 3 months, but like from when I found out like that he was doing drugs, like so I guess 6 months time, you know. And I'm like, I don't know how to. And what do we do? They're like, just leave him be. I'm like, he will die. And then finally, when that happened, I was like, do you see what I'm saying, guys? Like I was the only thing keeping him alive. Like you know what I mean? Like the only one that would save him, the only one that would be there.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but I will tell you though, when I found that out, I felt a sense of relief. And because it was, again, no more trauma, no more texting, no more calls, no more nonsense, no more lies, no more cheating, no more this, no more that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because at the time you thought maybe you could get past the cheating. But honestly, think about it. You know, you're looking forward 10 years down the road. You think you can't ever forget those things.
Right.
You know, I mean,
It was broken.
I've been in relationships in the past and, you know, I've been dishonest and, you know, ultimately I wasn't happy and I drug it out. But, you know, I just did things that weren't right, and you know, get down the road, and it's just like, man, this person still feels that. Like you never get past those things, you know. But
and he couldn't deal with the fact that guys wanted to be with me either.
Yeah.
And so like there was a moment where people were like, Dani, you should be with this guy, you know, at this like competition, whatever. And I even like started to be like, oh yeah, like maybe I will be, but I'm with Wes. And like they're like, no, like you're not together with him. He was dating that girl. Like it was just one of these things where it was so warped that like he got mad at me and angry at me that this guy was like trying to like make out with me at this thing when like he had cheated on me and also still had a wife. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was like, you're right. Like that was bad of me, and I'm so sorry, and I love you.
But
you see how manipulative and crazy that is?
at the end of the day, all he did was just tell you a bunch of words, you know.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, and you know, it's heartbreaking that he passed, but I mean.
But honestly, he didn't want to be a part of this world anymore, and we had talked about that many times, and he just felt like this wasn't like he was always a disappointment, and he couldn't love himself, and that was so hard for me to be like. I would tell him daily, like, you are attractive, like, you are amazing, you are whatever. And, like, and it didn't matter. You know what I mean? And
drugs will do that, too. I mean, because I've been there. It's like I talked about in the podcast before about my issue with pills. I just had that distaste towards myself so much, you know. You just build up this hopelessness. You're just like, ugh. You know, you're just kind of getting through it.
Yeah.
And you're living off that high.
Yes.
I mean, you know, ultimately I ended up, you know, like I talked about before, looking in the mirror and say, I hate you. I hate this person in the mirror. And I walked away from that person. To me, that's a form of self-love, showing hatred to the person you were and leaving them behind, because that's really so. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm very fucking fortunate because there's still so many people that get trapped in that for years and years and years. Yeah. I have a lot of friends that are ex-addicts and stuff that have been through it, you know, and we all relate on that. And I think it's beautiful that we're all seeking higher things, but some people just get stuck forever. My mom had 5 brothers, 1 sister. My mom was the youngest of all of them. My mom's came out good, but, you know, she's lost a couple of her brothers to addiction. I mean, and they're all, you know, she's seen it. And, you know, they're in their 60s and shit. Like their entire lives were consumed by that. And it's fucking sucks. And it led them to lie and cheat and do all these things because it
goes hand in hand. And I am truly grateful that, like, I really leaned into like my religion and leaned into God, and for me that saved me. Because there is a world where I know like He would have wanted me to go to. Yeah,
for sure.
You know, and it was that powerful, and it was that dictating, and that, you know, and so people can always judge on the surface and be like, wow, that's so dumb. But again, for me to be this, like during all this time, by the way, like I'm on billboards, I'm on the news, like I'm flipping heavy tire. Like you gotta understand, like I'm still like thriving in my life, and people could not understand like why I'd ever be sad or why I'd be negative or this or that or whatever, you know? And it was just like, it was so opposite of how I wanted to live my life. And I just didn't know how to have that love for Him, but like not be a part of it too, and like finish it. Like I'm like, you know, that perfectionist in me, like, okay, let's finish this.
And a lot of people watching, or, you know, there's people that judge from the outside. They're like, why would this person, that's weak to even allow that, But at the end of the day, when you love someone, you'll suffer for them.
And and also I do want to note this, that like nobody knew that this is how he was. His best friends, like there's the one best friend that did,
Yeah.
but like no people that he known for years, no one, even people to this day,
Hit it well.
still he hit it well. Yeah, and so again, like it's not like it was just like, and like he tricked other girls in Nashville and other people, like so it's just like he just was such a broken person. And again, like I said, I loved him wholeheartedly. Hate that was like my first real relationship, but
not a great start.
But
Not
yeah,
a strong start.
but now it is one of those where like I see the red flags, I see what I
I was
want.
gonna say it almost can't get worse though,
And-
right?
Well, I say that I've said that before. The only other worst would be like me being with like a murderer, you know, like,
Yeah,
so like what is it? What,
At least he's upfront about it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
just be honest. Are you a serial killer? Okay.
Exactly.
just
So like if I
kidding.
end up with that, then I mean there's that. So that's why I like too though. What it on the other coin though, it is really challenging because okay, let's say a guy is just like nice and like, oh, how's your day going? I can't be like, oh, well, you're not a drug addict, so like, yay, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's
Right,
go on
like-
a date. Let's
Yeah,
go
like,
like.
just because you're not crazy, like
Right,
you know what
yes.
I'm saying? Like doesn't mean that that's a person that you should be with, but
Exactly.
it's like it sets that up in that comparison to what you were with before. I could see where that would be.
So you
I could see that,
and that's
yeah.
why you never can compare people. You can't compare relationships. You can't compare your story to my story. Like there's so many different things that you never can compare it. And so
Yeah.
that's why like I've worked on with therapy and worked on with my grief group and stuff like that. Because I never lost anyone before. Never
Yeah.
lost a grandparent. Never lost whatever. Because like I just never had lost anyone. So for me, this was a first loss, my first love, like so many things,
lot at
and
once.
plus being injured, like
Yeah.
so it just got crazy. So anyway, I've never been able to tell that full story. So thank you for listening to me.
I mean, that was intense. That was a lot. I mean, you went into
Yeah.
very great detail of it, and I hate that for you. But at the end of the day, you know, it was a part of your path.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a big
Yeah.
piece of who you are today, and you're moving forward. You're doing amazing things.
Thank you.
And because of that, all that trauma at once. I
Yeah.
mean, when you do find someone worth loving, you
Yeah.
know, you're gonna know.
Right.
You're gonna know these signs. You're gonna know how to read certain signs that maybe you learn from that, and just different red flags. You're gonna know what you want.
And
so,
there was something that I
do gotta
actually-
say too,
go ahead.
real quick. I know you're getting close on time.
Yeah,
You said 12:40.
we'll be okay. Keep going.
Okay,
Fine.
cool. Because there's a couple more things. How are we looking at time with the cameras?
Reset them a long time ago, brother.
Oh, cool. Yeah, because there's a couple more things I want to get into.
Okay, go ahead.
But do you have anything else to say on that?
I was just gonna say that that therapy, true support from people that were not judgmental, like those are the people, my parents, like the love that they all have had for me, no matter what, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, was what kept me going.
Therapy goes a long way too.
Yes, and I'd never done it before. I always kind of rolled my eyes at it before.
I always had
and
to.
I found a great therapist.
That's about the same. Damn near every guest that we've ended up talking about therapy, and
I'm
mental
telling you,
health and stuff.
One of the biggest things we talk about on this whole journey
Yep.
through the podcast has been mental health, and
I love that. And
I love it.
And I was going to say, I saw something, I thought I screenshotted it, but maybe I didn't, but it was basically just saying that like there's no like living in fear. You know what I mean? Like there's no point to live in fear, even because like for me with relationships, moving forward, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so fearful that someone's going to do that again to me, or that's going to like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to see the red flags or whatever. And now I'm just kind of at a point where I'm like, I'm good with whatever God's going to bring into my life because obviously I've proven like I can make it through anything.
Yeah.
So like I'm not going to search for the negative. I'm not going to, think that, there's always going to be red flags wherever. I'm just going to be very plain about it.
Yep.
Like, and if you don't buy my freaking dinner, like we're going to have some problems.
Hey, I tell you what, I mean, because I learned a lot from past relationships, but, not only about what I wanted, but also about how to be better for, the next thing. And, I have not necessarily regrets. I learned a lot about myself, through past relationships, but, going into this one with her, it was, on the first day, and I was just like, I didn't have a notebook, but it's almost as if I did. I'm like, by the way, here's everything you need to know about me.
Yep.
Here's all the shit I'm into. This is what I do in my off time.
Yep.
You know it all right now.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
I love that.
And it worked out beautifully. And like we both did that. And so there's no fucking surprises.
It's so great.
So, and I highly suggest everybody do that because
Yep.
I've been in relationships just like, you get a year down the road and they say, there's an issue.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is this a fucking issue?
Right.
Well, it wasn't my place to say it at the beginning.
No, just
Bull
be
fucking
honest.
shit. Yeah, just be
Yeah,
honest.
be
'Cause
real,
we
be-
could have saved ourselves a lot of time and
Yes.
heartbreak, but you don't like this now, but this is a big piece of me. So this is a fucking conflict.
Well, it's because a lot of times people want you to like them. The whole point is they just want you to be in the
And
relationship.
it's fake, but that's fake
yes,
as fuck.
Exactly.
But so many people do that,
and that's
though.
why I try to be as real and open as possible on all my platforms, on all my stuff, just and with men, with whoever I'm talking to, whatever, and just being like, this is how I operate. This is what brings me joy. Like, this is my weaknesses, this is my strengths, whatever. And a lot of guys find that intimidating, you know? And like, she probably just, the power dynamic roles of like a male, like you saying that and kind of like putting it out there first like that was probably really attractive to her, and being like, dang, like, okay, now I feel like I can do that too.
I mean, she's pretty,
you know,
hooked,
like,
you know what I'm saying?
so, but anyway.
Hell yeah. That's awesome though. But so you learn from it all at the end of the day. It's crazy shit, but you always learn from it.
That's been my
You can't let it tear you down.
Yeah.
So
I like what you were saying yesterday about your tattoo. When you were explaining it, the way you explained it yesterday, you said it's either good or necessary.
oh yeah, so
I like that a lot.
amor fati. So it's Latin for the love of one's fate. And so it's something that's always a reminder, because there's no bad.
Yeah.
Everything's either good or necessary. I've been through some pretty fucked up shit throughout my life, right?
Yeah.
But I've never once looked at one of those things and reflected and been like, that's so terrible. Like, poor pity me. I'm just like, man, because of that, that played a big part in some fashion as to who I am today. And I just embrace it. I'm like, that's just part of my fucking journey, because everybody goes through similar things, similar traumas, maybe not the exact same, but we all can relate in some fashion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get through it and do really good shit, or let it fucking weigh them down and they never overcome it.
And I've been able to help hundreds of women by sharing my story and by helping, you know, and going through this, you know, and so again, it's just another tool and another thing that with my platform that I can just be there for them and help them hopefully get out of their situations too when I couldn't.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Does that help you whenever you were going through everything, knowing that you had people that you were, for lack of a better term, like responsible for, that you were accountable to?
Oh, because if I wouldn't have had my clients, like that's what they don't realize. Like, my business has saved my life multiple times. You know what I mean? Like, movement has saved my life multiple times.
Yeah.
Because when things got hard, like, I thought about like working out and how that made me feel. You know, when things got hard like this, I thought about like, you know, my clients, and that I don't want to say responsibility, but like what I have set out to do is to change the situation and to truly help them to become better people. And so like for me, you know, going through all of that and like knowing that this somehow is going to help them. And it has helped them to be more selective and be more choosy with who they spend their time with, and not just go and be like, oh, I'm just like out here living my best life. Like, no, like genuinely, like whatever you want, manifest it, go after it, work on yourself, like you know what I mean? And like all of that to help them. So
good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think just my last comment here is just that, you know, we've had a lot of powerhouse dudes in here, but yesterday we had Whitney, today we have Dani.
Cool.
And, I think it's awesome. Like I think your message is awesome, but I think that the way that you're able to help people is awesome. And I've seen it close and personal. And I was telling him before we got here, I was like, I remember the very first few movements that we went to, and then last year we're standing on freaking the field at Nissan Stadium. Yeah. So like, you know, it's pretty cool. The whole journey is pretty cool, and I think that
thank you.
Having you and Whitney here to speak to an audience that we don't usually talk to, I think is really good, because it's like with Tyler too. Tyler was talking about having gone through some stuff, and I asked him, like, with your brand being ambition and being positive all the time, like, was it difficult? Did you feel like almost ashamed of feeling that way, because you're supposed to be like this?
Yeah, me and him talk all the time about that kind of stuff and go back and forth to help each other, because he does feel that pressure, and I get that. I get that pressure too. But I also again, life is too short, and I have just told people that, like, I'm just gonna be real about it. Like, if I'm annoyed with the situation, I'm annoyed with the situation. Like, or if I'm this, I'm this. If I'm that, I'm that. Like, my leg has been killing me for like the past week. Like, you know, so people are like, oh, how you feeling? I'm like, I mean, I feel like sexy and strong and whatever, but also my leg's numb. Like, it just is part of the injury.
Yeah.
It's part of that.
I went a little bit left of where I was trying to go there, but my main point was that to hear somebody like Whitney, to hear somebody like you, like I was talking about, we've had powerhouse males, but like you guys are absolute bosses.
Thank you.
And so like for women, that's the same reason why we talked to, you know, Charles about what he's going through, because it's like, oh, he's just a big bodybuilder, like there's nothing going on with him. That's why whenever I talk to you, I'm like, I think it's important that you share with people what you're struggling with, because similar to you, women they think women, oh, Dani's got it all together. Dani's, you know, this, that, and the other, and she's this big ray of sunshine all the time, and it's like, you are, but it's important for people to understand that, like, you're a person too, and you have a story too. And also, like, I think it's a good moment of appreciation for your people to be able to say, like, yo, I don't know if I ever told you this, but you guys got me through that shit.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
And I can relate with you guys, and Tyler and I have talked about as well, is the whole pressure of having such a positive brand and a positive mindset thing, right? So everybody expects that from you all the time.
Yeah.
Almost. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's almost as like, that's like your only mode and you're not allowed to fucking leave it.
Right.
And, you know, I went through what I did, into last year, beginning of the year, and it was a pretty hard time. And, you know, just kind of like, fuck all this, you know?
Yeah.
But I had, you know, like my father and stuff like that. Hey, this is the time to live what your brand's about, you know? And I'm like, you're right. But I still have to get through it.
Yeah.
And then, but you get a lot of people that take advantage of that
Yes.
positivity. They take advantage of it all, you know? And then when you don't do what they expect of you, whatever, they're like, you've changed.
No.
And that shit, we've talked
Drives you
about this.
crazy.
That drives me nuts. It's like, I've changed. Why? Because I put my foot down on certain things, and I'm tired of people taking advantage of my shit.
Right.
Yeah, I have changed in that aspect because I don't want that to happen.
You're
I'm still going to
boundaries too.
still
though.
the same person, but as soon as you put up a boundary, they're like, you changed. I don't want nothing to do with you.
Who cares? Then they're not your person. And my whole thing is I've always said it's love your body throughout. So like that's again, I'm gonna have days where that I don't love my body, or that I feel like it's like bloated or this or that or whatever. So again, it's not about like feeling perfect every day. It's not about even getting to be perfect because you're never going to get there. It is about enjoying the journey throughout and go and like adapting and overcoming with the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
You know? And with me, I just try to be as real and authentic. It's like, okay, I don't want to feel pressure that I have to post at this certain time. Either look at my shit later or don't look at it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Or don't look at it. It doesn't matter because I put out stuff that I want to put out, and I just try to be as real as possible with it. And like, if I don't feel like talking to the camera today, I'm not going to talk to the camera today. But if I really feel like I need to have a message that I want to say and share with people, then I do it. Like,
Exactly.
and just be
What
open
do you
and
move
be,
by?
you know,
Be vulnerable, be authentic.
Yes.
Authenticity is key. I've repeated it a million times lately.
Yeah.
I know I was in a relationship, and, you know, doing the brand, it's like, don't talk about this. Don't talk about your religious beliefs because, you know,
Right.
being
Yeah.
pagan, people think you don't talk about religion and politics. Okay, I don't really talk about politics, but one,
Right.
I don't like politics. I don't like one side or the other. I fucking
Yeah.
hate it all.
Yeah.
We need to start over, just burn it down.
For sure.
That's my view. So you can't give Joe a political stance, really.
Yeah.
But two is like the whole spiritual belief thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, but at the same time, that's like one of the biggest pieces of who I am.
Yeah.
And I'll die for it. And so why would I hide that? If I moved,
Well,
and I
it's part
think,
of you,
and I think
yeah.
sharing that can impact people.
Yep.
You know, and we go back and forth, and just
Yeah.
open minds. I love opening people's minds. So that's a huge thing to me. But I think back on those conversations, I'm like, why the fuck did I ever even listen to that? Because
Yeah.
things are rocking and rolling right now
Yeah.
because I am putting it all out there and
Yep.
bringing up touchy topics for people because
Yeah.
people want to fucking talk about those things.
They do. And everyone always says to me on my social media, like on my Instagram, they're always like, hey, thank you for being so vulnerable. Or like, hey, I actually went through that with my husband of this many years. Or, hey, I lost my person. Or, hey, you know, like they always reach out about more of like the vulnerability thing. Like, yes, they're like, yeah, you're so positive. I love that. But when it comes to being on the other end of it, they're like, hey, I have an injury too. And I'm in the gym in like 6 months. And I'm like, I feel you. I've been
Yeah.
there. Like, and so
Same.
again, you just you build more real connections that way than just being some bubbly young female chick. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for me, like
there's a lot of that out there, and there's a lot of people that don't just share their stories, and they build a great brand of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
you know, off of just,
But does anybody know who they really are?
that's the whole thing.
exactly. Like I want
Does
more
anybody know
people.
why they're doing what they're doing, or
Right.
where they came from?
But
or-
it's
Yeah.
the trendy thing to do,
Right.
you know, but trends fall.
Yeah.
It's like the ASRV thing we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
It's like they maybe they have resources to pump $1 million into an ad, they'll get some sales, but somebody that that buys from you is buying from you because they believe in Joe Adams.
Yes.
Who knows who the fucking CEO of ASRV is? Nobody
Right.
knows. And they're gonna buy from you forever because of you.
I've seen a lot of the same orders consistently
And
since
that's
I started
so
since day
sick.
one. And to me,
Yes.
I'm like, I'll make sure to write like, hey, you fucking rock.
Yeah.
Like you always do your thing.
And that's how I do
appreciate
with my clients. Like I hold on to them true because the ones that show up and show out and like come to my Nashville Fit Show, the Nashville Fit Show, my Move Fit events, who've been there for 5 a.m. news crew stuff that we've done. Like, like it's just because they believe in the mission and they believe in me. And I know that I'm set out to do great things and I've already touched on great things, but I still have so much more to go.
Same.
And
I feel
and so I
It's a
know
relentless
now
pursuit.
even more. Yeah. And I know even more
Never
now
ending.
that I'm not going to let anyone get in the way of that. So
Yeah.
only people, and that's clients, friends, people I work with, do stuff with or whatever. I want them to know that like, who I am is someone that has a good heart, that wants to just help people, but also wants to live like a fun and fulfilling life.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want it to be off balance again.
Of course.
So.
And, you know, sometimes things get a little bit off balance and you readjust. It's part of it. So, hell yeah. Good shit. Well, if you have time, real quick.
Yep.
You know, we've talked about your brand quite a bit, actually, and what you do and, like, what your purpose is. What was the main purpose of pursuing bodybuilding show? Like, why did you go from strongman, everything, to, you know, wanting to compete?
I basically, so I went to strongman, and then I got injured in 2020. A vertebrae slipped forward, bulged the disc, left from like here down was numb, my whole left leg. And so, long story short, pandemic happened, couldn't see a doctor. So I went to some chiropractors, whatever, you know, and started seeing Jesse and stuff like that. And, nothing has helped it really. It's subsided a little bit. The disc is getting better, I guess, but the vertebrae will always be shifted forward from a previous dance injury I had when I was 14. So it's one of those things where, I knew that I had to give up strongman. It was dangerous. I could be paralyzed, like if my vertebrae shifts any more forward. And like I said, I want to live a fulfilling life, be there for my clients, you know, everything like that.
Getting paralyzed.
Yeah.
That would suck.
Yeah. So, no, you can relate with everything like that. So for me, I just was like, I need to transition. I needed to figure out a different way. So I actually reached out to Doug with Heavy D Training at Olympus because I had heard that he was really good with food. And that's what I needed help with, because when I went through my trauma, people probably were like, oh, you probably were like binge eating and overeating. I was eating like once a day. Like there'd be a whole pizza in front of me and I'd have half a slice. No appetite. There were days I went without eating and trained clients all day long. Yeah. Like I just couldn't, you know, for months. Okay. Plus my injury. So I put on a significant amount of weight, and, you know, I still was strong, still was working out, you know, but I just didn't feel like my best. And then we got the gig with Shape Magazine, and they wanted to do an article about me, and they wanted to do all these things. And I was like, I gotta like get this in gear and stuff. So I started with him after I went to see Whitney's show a year prior. So July of 2021. And I was like, I could do this. I know I know that you can do this. I left Opry Mills really excited, and I was like, I can do this, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then after, and then met with him, and we started training, doing online programming, and then food and stuff. And I just started slowly taking away things.
And Doug is a solid dude too.
Yeah. And so,
awesome.
and he was just honest with me and open and whatever. And then it really kicked it in gear come like January, February, really after Whitney's fit show for him in April. I was like, let's go, pedal to the metal. And he was like, I think you should do a show in October. I was like, nope, I'm gonna be a sponsor for Whitney. I'm gonna represent all bodies and I'm gonna go do the one there. And he was like, you surpassed any expectation I ever had of you. He was like, you're one of the strongest clients I've ever had. I mean, I think I shook pretty much everyone. Like Rucker,
you look incredible.
Everybody. Thank you.
Really do. You really do look incredible.
Thanks.
Fucking killer transformation. It's awesome.
Thank you. And so, and this is who I always knew I could be. I just never had the best like nutritional advice. And then strongman, you want to put mass moves weight, you know, so it just was like hard. And so anyway, so this is much better training techniques for me and my injury. It's much better food because it teaches me discipline. And yeah, so I really like it. I like doing the show, and I also did the OCB show, Rondell Clark show, the week after here in the Murfreesboro area, and it went great. I did both of them back to back, and I loved it. I mean, I told him I am probably one of the most disciplined people you'll ever meet. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it exactly to the T. You know.
Yeah.
But I have to have a goal. And so the goal was a show and whatever like that. And so now even not having like a goal, quote unquote, I know that my lifestyle, this is how I've been doing it. Like I started it a year before the show. Most people start a show prep like 16 weeks or something, you know?
Yeah.
Mine was like 62.
Well, then then you're already a very disciplined person in everything you do, it seems, anyways. So this was just, all right, let's add that on. Like it just caters to my lifestyle
but
already.
it even continually though, Joe, it's so funny because it's almost like people still don't understand that or know that about me. And so they're like continually like, oh, like, don't you want those cookies? Or like, oh, don't you like, oh, are you going to stay on your food? It's like, bitch, like I've been on this stuff. Like I haven't drank since January. Like when I set goals, like I continue to make them and continue to crush them. And I'm not saying that people don't have faults or whatever, but I believe it's a choice. And so for me, it's like I choose to be like exceptional. I choose to hold myself to higher standards. So just because somebody brings a cake into the gym doesn't mean that I want to have the whole cake. You know what I mean? Like I have my thing that I want or whatever. And so it just, it's like I just want to always, live a healthy lifestyle and feel good. And right now, this is the type of programming and type of stuff that I feel good doing. And it shows now, and which is great. But like, I want everyone to know that they have watched my journey. I did incredible things at 215 pounds and 50% body fat. I literally was in Shape magazine. Like, I was on ESPN, and I was, all over and flipping a tire when I was at 190, and I was, doing strongman. Like, so again, and then on stage at 155, like the weight doesn't matter, how you carry your body, like the confidence that you have, the drive that you have, like those are the things that matter, and the discipline that will keep you on your journey, no matter what season or what that looks like.
Fucking right.
So you were on stage at 155. Is that what you said?
This past, yes, for bodybuilding. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then I was 15% body fat, and I've never been that light since I was like 10 years old.
So you said, excuse me, you said 215 and 50, and then you were 155 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
See, and it's a beautiful testimony. A lot of people,
Thank
you. They look at themselves and they're like, I could never do that, but you fucking can.
You can. It's just hard as fuck. And you got to really prioritize, and you got to really focus. And also, like now, after the show, everybody's like, oh, like, are you going to put your weight back on? It's like, wasn't planning on it. But like right now, I'm 5 pounds up higher than I was on the show. And I'm literally, I'm literally 5 pounds and then up like 1% body fat. And like that's a great rebound. It's a great reverse diet. Like that's a great, because I have a coach.
That's where a lot of people struggle. Whitney even voiced after her first show or a couple shows, she rebounded real bad. And it's easy to do because
they're like, oh, I'm gonna go live. I'm like, this is my life though. Like I've done this. I've been on a meal plan for like 11 years. It's just that this is a more tailored meal plan, and it's like, you see what I'm saying? So it's just like it's a very niche, and it's very like I don't get to do the fun things that a lot of people get to do in terms of like randomly eat like a cookie in the middle of the day. Like that's great for them, but like that's not something I could do because I know how my body reacts to that. You know what I mean? Or how people are like, oh, I go drink every weekend, but I still do bodybuilding shows. It's like, that's great, that's your body and that's your frame, or they go on these lavish trips or whatever, but like that's not something that I can do at this point because I'm continually working for my body and I'm trying to raise that metabolic rate up, and I'm trying to have it work for me. And my goal, like I told Doug when we first started this, was I want to be able to eat 3,000 calories a day and not have to like fight my body for it.
Yeah.
Like it actually like works for me, and then it burns that, and then I actually like stay looking athletic and feeling athletic.
Exactly. And you're doing it because you want to.
Yeah.
Nobody else is telling you.
Exactly.
This is your goal. This is your journey. Fuck what everybody else thinks or their input. You're just rolling forward with it.
Yeah.
And when you want to have that freedom or whatever, even if you don't, that's totally up to you.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Well,
you got 5 minutes.
We could probably talk all day.
Yeah. I gotta get out of here.
It's about 1:00 though, so I know you got to roll.
Okay.
But I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Don't leave without saying bye.
Yeah.
I know.
And we got to get our picture too.
Yeah,
wait a second.
But so everybody definitely check this out. This will be episode 14, I believe. I forget the exact date, but check it out. Dani, you're amazing.
Thank you.
You've been an amazing guest, and I look forward to having you back again soon, okay?
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
appreciate you guys.